Okay, well, thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Didac Ferrer. I work 3 floors upstairs. I'm a manager here of one unit that works on sustainability and equal opportunities in the campus of UPC. So, a practitioner. I do projects and do management. I'm not just thinking in theory, but really applying or trying to apply all these concepts. I will try to tell you about one of these real projects. It's a real story about energy savings at the campus. I will continue with some reflections and share my vision for what could be a smart university, and I promise to give you a recommendation which maybe you will not like, but I enjoyed a lot. Well, smart. Well, maybe this is the only thing we are going to learn from my talk, but as I thought that many of you are not native English speakers like myself, I try to see what.
Smart.
Okay, with me, repeat with me. 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry, failed. And again.
Smart.
Okay, smart. Well, I try to use it. Smart, as they say, and as Mark told, is being very good at learning or thinking about things. And I will try to follow this idea of learning, being good at learning, because many times we talk about smart, and we completely, I think, forget that this idea of learning. And learning is a complex process. Some know much more than me, but it's not spontaneous and so easy. You really need to be prepared and think about this learning, especially if it's a collective or organizational learning. So, my story. Well, 4 years ago, we were in a really hard economic crisis. We are still, but it's not that new now. We are getting used. And one of the ideas of an economic viability plan, one of the strategies was to develop an energy savings plan. By the way, I just say I had been working in energy saving at the university during 8 or 9 years before. Nobody had ever cared, and that year it became a real important topic. What was the goal? Well, the goal that we set as university was to reduce 25% of the total energy consumption in 4 years. Some laughed. I smiled because I didn't believe it was possible. I said, let's try to have a great challenge. This will probably promote some kind of important effort. The idea to set that goal was that by reducing that 25%, we could contain the energy bill of the university that was at that time about 5 million euros per year. So we embraced the Club for Degrowth. This is not very popular, and all these smart city strategy and so on never talk about degrowth. They talk about smart growth, intelligent growth, etc. But why not think about the growth? It's really interesting, and maybe more than applying the more slow, I would suggest to be more slow. Yeah, maybe this is a joke. Our joke, but that could help us also to think where we should go. Anyway, in that strategy of energy saving, we developed 7 different strategic lines, and I will emphasize especially 2, which you see with these red arrows. One is the monitoring system, and the other is energy optimization projects in every building of the campus. Why I'm talking about monitoring? Well, monitoring, you have seen, is the cornerstone of any smart city strategy. It's about sensors, it's about data, it's about real-time information. We have been working in that in the last 10 years, so we even in 2011 that we had no money left to invest in those kind of systems. We had already monitored during the previous years, so we had the information. That was crucial. We have about 205 measuring points of electricity mainly, but also gas consumption and water throughout the campus. And the system is public and open. We were doing this open data without even knowing that open data was something that existed already 10 years ago. And we have different types of user profiles with those data. Obviously, managers that have to manage this energy bill or consumption, but also guys from the maintenance, people in the reception, and also use of research and education. Today, we have around 100 people that are registered to our monitoring system that use those data with the students or in research projects, because somehow the campus is also a lab. Well, this is the building where we are now, the Vertex building. You have on the top a normal picture, and on the bottom you have another type of picture of the behavior of this building the last 2 weeks. In blue was last week, in green you have the line until yesterday afternoon when I prepared those slides. And you see we can compare if last week was better or worse than this week, etc. So we have this real feedback and on time. We had an experience some 3 years ago. We asked some experts what was their definition of a building. We asked engineers, we asked architects, and they all said, well, building is an infrastructure. It's with walls and all kind of roofs and things. Then we asked them, what is a city? And they said, well, a city is a complex system with people and culture and infrastructures, so it's a mix. Why this vision is so different when we consider building something that is a dead thing and a city is a living thing? So if we think to apply measures of optimization and smart use of buildings, maybe we have to think differently what a building is. And a building at the end is a community of people that have some roofs to protect themselves and walls to protect themselves of weather conditions to make activities together, but it's not only an infrastructure. So the question became to be how to change what we called an orphan building into a living building. So if you want to manage something, you have to understand this thing. And we understood that public buildings as campus buildings are orphaned because nobody really is the father or the mother, is really there, and why saving energy? Somebody's paying, I don't know who, well, it's all, but it's nobody. And this concept of orphan building, we want to change it. So when you want to create a living building from an orphan building, the first thing you have to give him his parents. So we set up teams and community of users, some kind of meaning and purpose for those teams. In that case, it was sustainability, economic and environmental sustainability, and some kind of recognition of the guys, those people, those teams, those community that work to pursue that purpose. And it was about finding some kind of incentives, a feedback system, and some kind of tools. And these tools are monitoring system. But let me just insist that tools are at the end of that sequence, not at the beginning. What else? In those building energy optimization projects that we wanted that every building had, we had 5 principles. The first was the scale of intervention is the building. It's not the campus, it's not my floor or my office, it's the building. So it's a physical space. The second was it had to be voluntary, not forced, because nobody really do things when they are obliged to. It has to be understanding why and the meanings and so on. This reward was that we agreed to reinvest 25% of the savings in improvements of the same building. So that was the simple recognition system. And we allowed all kind of self-organization to obtain savings. So it was we give you information, we give you some kind of reward, and you We can suggest, we can help, but you decide how you organize your team, because nobody knows better than you how you are using that resource, which is the building. And obviously, we did not have any real money, so it was all about low-cost investments. Okay, at the beginning, as it was volunteer, 30 early adopters came, yeah, we want to play that game, and they represented 30% of the surface. The next year, we opened that call again in the campus, and 21 buildings participated, and as any adoption curve, we had this kind of evolution, and last year we had 95% of the surface of the university playing that game of optimizing the energy consumption. You can see here last year they are quite happy, they are really enjoying that process. It's not something painful, it's something that we all learn and enjoy. This is the typical example of evolution they have been able to do. This is the on Friday, Saturday, Sunday of in blue, in dark blue, or blue in the behind you have in 2009, the evolution of the energy consumption in 2009, and you can compare in different periods. We have 2009, 11, 12, Fridays to Sunday periods. What is important here to notice is that the baseline was 100 kilowatt hours or 100 kilowatt connected during the nights and the weekend in 2009, and it's less than 50 in 2012. So you can see that just by changing some kind of use patterns and behavior, we reduce almost half of the energy consumption of the building without almost any investment, simply by observing what happened and with some awareness activities, etc., communication. As I said before, data or some kind of tools monitoring are only 1/5 of the strategy or the approach. The other are building a team, creating awareness, doing those investments, improving the operations are the other 80% of the strategy. So yes, data are fundamental, but are not at all enough, okay? So injecting data on a system doesn't necessarily create any response. What you need is some kind of co-attitude, and here we talk about collaboration, cooperation. I think you have seen many of those ideas explained this morning. And does it work? Well, this is an example of one department. In red you have the energy evolution, the monthly energy evolution or consumption in the year 2010. In green you have this year. So these are data that I watched yesterday. You see that the reduction is around 40% or so. This has not, if anyone is from this building, please correct me, but nobody has really decreased in his quality of life in the building, and we have reduced 40% of the resources needed. So see how unsmart was the situation 4 years ago. Yeah? And well, the rectorate are also in that path. Look, in the year 13, it was the orange curve, and green is this year. So they're doing quite good. It's essential that they do it, because otherwise it's not credible if the institution just say, well, the others have to save energy, but we don't. Obviously, this is a really inconsistent message. So thanks, Cisco, for the efforts being cold in the morning or hot in summer. Let's talk about energy results for the full university. The orange curve is the real evolution of the energy consumption in the last 12 years. See that since we set that strategy, obviously in the coinciding with the crisis and so on, but the reduction has really been visible, and we have obtained 27% of reduction in 4 years, so more than this goal that we were laughing. This has allowed us to stabilize the energy cost. And if we think of the cumulated savings, it's about 4 million of euros that we have not paid, that we who had paid if the consumption had remained the same in 2020. Okay, if we are smart or if we pretend to be smart, we have to be learning. What have we learned from that as an organization? And that's not a new question. Organizational learning is an old thing, or at least in the last 20, 30 years, many literature in management has been written. I think that it's important not to reinvent the wheel every time, and some authors like Peter Senge, but many others, have identified some of the key points of how organizations learn, because when we talk about smart university, we're talking about a university that can learn. I have read some articles on organizational learning in universities that say that these universities are these organizations, educational or higher education institutions, are the worst organizations in the world for learning. Individuals learn a lot, and the paradox is that the organization doesn't learn, and this has to do a lot with this compartmentalization or the silos system by design that universities have as a structure. Well, I think it's important to understand, because otherwise any effort is really hard. So for me, when we talk about becoming a smart university, I think it's more about social innovation than technical innovation. We have enough technology for the next 20 years, so the problem is more social, it's organizational, it's coordination, cooperation, etc. And it's basically about empowering people to use information and technology, but let's stress on this empowering people. And when you want to empower people, you have to change your organizational style, and probably you have to go from the one on the left to the one on the right, and that's something that many organizations have understood, but we don't really, accept it easily. So I'm coming to the end. If we talk about my vision about a smart university, well, first, we have to accept something that is just an information for you. This is the periodic table, many of you recognize. These are the elements that you have found in an old phone of 30 years ago. And this is the element you found in a mobile, as we have all in our pocket. Okay, so we go back, go on, back, yes, you see? What does it mean? Well, using all these supposed to be clean and neutral elements that we have in those technology, means this, and means that, and also this, and this, and this. And I think I don't need to explain what is, because you all know. But a smart university should be capable of coping with all this complexity and not ignoring and say, well, we are just focusing on monitoring, or we're focusing, because it's really a holistic problem that if we start accelerating the use of technology, we are really destroying, and as Mark said, this is really problematic somewhere. What is my vision? Well, I think, and it's interesting to see that this idea has been already commented here and applied in other places. The idea of the campus as a lab, a real lab to apply all that complexity and to be capable of learning, because a laboratory is a place of learning. So applying this, as they do in the Institute of Mayverdu, no? We saw before, this high school. Applying the idea of learning in our context every day with real problems, that would be really given us an opportunity to also share that knowledge around with our cities and societies. Myself, I'm involved in a project that I'm really interested in. It's called Nexus 24. Some of you know, or even participate in that project. It's about that. It's about changing in 10 years the way we work in the administrative staff of the university, and changing from that rigid and top-down and controlled model to a network model, and that's empowering all kind of staff for for doing the best and more creative work. Well, I just finished. I said I would give you a recommendation, and it was San Jordi some days ago. I got a book that when I was preparing this, I thought it has a lot to do. It's interesting when we think about future to read about the past, and I recommend if any one of you have already read, please tell me your opinion, but this is a very easy book to read and very interesting, and one of the things that says is that when we developed when we had this agrarian revolution, so thousands of years ago, we ended being happy. So these collectors, these primitive humans were much happier than we became when we used technology. I don't know if this can be demonstrated, but it's an interesting reflection. So more and more technology, more and more velocity and speed and so on. So what is the question? Is the question being more efficient, or is the question being happier? So that's it. And just to end, a public notice I found somewhere. Okay, thank you.